Title: The Year I Got Taxed and Found My Freedom. When Tasha quit her job, she felt powerful. No more office politics, no more waiting for permission to take a break. She wore pajamas to meetings, picked her own hours, and worked from cafes with oat milk, lattes, and Wi-Fi. Life finally felt like it belonged to her. "I'm free!" she shouted the day she turned in her resignation letter. Her friends cheered, and her Instagram story was full of fire emojis and the caption, "Boss Life." For the first few months, everything felt magical. Clients were coming in, money was flowing. She no longer had to beg for a raise as she set her own prices. Freedom was delicious, but no one told her freedom came with paperwork. In late March, an email popped up in her inbox. Reminder, tax filing deadline approaching. At first, she smiled and ignored it. "I used to get those at work. HR handled it." Then came another email from her bank. Then one from a client asking for her tax ID. Her smile started to fade. Wait, she was the HR now. She was the finance department. She was everything. She finally opened the tax notice. Her stomach dropped. She owed more than she had in her savings account. "I thought being your own boss meant making money, not owing it," she whispered to no one. She Googled things like, "Can freelancers go to jail for late taxes?" and "How to escape the country quietly." She had never felt so overwhelmed. The same freedom that felt like flying now felt like falling. All because no one warned her that taxes were part of the package. No one warned her that the price of freedom was learning how to handle it. Tasha was feeling like a queen. Her client had just paid her biggest gig yet. She danced around her tiny apartment, ordered sushi, upgraded her software, and even bought a cute coffee maker she didn't need. "This is it," she told herself. "I'm finally living the dream." But 2 weeks later, while scrolling through social media and sipping overpriced oat milk latte, she stumbled on a post that made her stomach drop. "Freelancers, don't forget to save 30% of your income for taxes." Wait, what? She blinked, reread, and then laughed nervously. That couldn't be right. 30%? She had already spent most of that money. A quick search turned into a panic spiral. Do freelancers pay tax? What happens if you don't file taxes? Can you go to jail for forgetting taxes? What is an audit and why does it sound like a horror movie? Her heart pounded, her browser tabs multiplied, her palms got sweaty. She pulled out a notebook and did the math. Bad idea. The numbers screamed back at her. "I thought I was escaping stress by quitting my 9-to-5, she muttered. Turns out stress just got a new outfit and moved in full-time. That night she couldn't sleep. Every ping from her email felt like it might be the government. She regretted every dumb purchase: the sushi, the software, the coffee maker, especially the coffee maker. Freedom, she realized, came with paperwork and spreadsheets and acronyms like VAT, IRS, and OMG. The next morning she whispered, "Okay, time to grow up. Let's learn this tax thing before it learns me." Tasha stood in the shower, letting the water hit her face like it could wash away the panic. She whispered to herself, "Okay, let's make a list. What did I mess up?" Mistake 1. Not saving for taxes. She'd spent everything she earned thinking it was all hers. No one told her that a big chunk of that money actually belonged to the government. She should have set aside a percentage, maybe 20–30% right from the start. Painful truth, but important. Mistake 2. Ignoring invoices and receipts. She never tracked what she earned or spent. No digital folder, no spreadsheet. Just chaos. When it was time to file taxes, she had no clue what came in or went out. Mistake 3. Filing later, not at all. Out of fear and confusion, she had ignored tax deadlines. "If I don't open the email," she told herself, "maybe it doesn't exist." Spoiler alert, it existed, and it came with penalties. Tasha sighed, letting the soap drip from her face. "Okay," she thought. "Other countries must be easier, right?" She grabbed her phone and did some comparing. In the US, freelancers must file quarterly estimated taxes and report all self-employment income. Miss a payment? You get fined. In the UK, self-employed people register with HMRC and do an annual self-assessment. There's a personal allowance, but it's still your job to keep records. In Nigeria, freelancers should register with the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. Income tax varies by earnings, and many forget about the pay-as-you-earn rule for individuals. Tasha sighed again. So, it's not just me. It's hard everywhere. But she felt a tiny shift, like she'd gone from drowning to floating. knowing the mistakes was a start. Owning them? Even better. She dried off, pulled out her laptop, and started a folder. Tax 101, no more crying. She may not have had all the answers yet, but at least now she knew the questions. Tasha sat in the back row of a small community hall. A banner on the wall read, "Freelancers, Tax, a beginner's survival guide." She took a deep breath and whispered, "Okay, adulting, let's go." The speaker, a cheerful woman named Ada, stood at the front with a whiteboard and a box full of receipts. "Tax is like a language," she said. "If you don't speak it, it sounds scary. But once you learn the basics, you feel more in control." Tasha leaned in. Finally, someone who wasn't making it sound like rocket science. Ada broke it down. Self-employment tax was the government's way of saying, "Hey, you don't have an employer, so we're counting on you to pay your share." Deductions were the magic words. If Tasha bought a laptop for work or paid for internet, she could subtract those costs from her total income before paying tax. VAT, value-added tax, came up if you sold products or services in countries that required it. Not everyone needed to register, but once you crossed a certain income level, it became important. "Keep your receipts," Ada said. "Track everything what you earn, what you spend on work, and what you save for taxes. Your future self will thank you." Tasha blinked. She had never kept a receipt in her life. Half of them ended up in her bag, the other half in random kitchen drawers. After the workshop, she walked to a nearby stationery shop and bought her first receipt folder, bright yellow. It felt official. At home, she downloaded a budgeting app. The first time she entered her income and expenses, it looked chaotic. But seeing the numbers in one place made her feel less afraid. She labeled folders, income, expenses, receipts, and tax docs. It felt weirdly satisfying. "I'm learning a new language," she said to herself, "and I don't hate it." Sure, there were still moments when she got overwhelmed, like reading about capital gains tax and feeling like she needed a dictionary. But now, she had tools, notes, and the confidence to ask questions. Tasha looked at her desk. The folder, the open app, the sticky notes on the wall with words like invoice, deductible, and due date. "Okay," she smiled. Still scary, but less mysterious. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was learning, growing. And most of all, she was no longer afraid of tax season sneaking up on her like a villain in a horror movie. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. And in Tasha's book, that was worth celebrating. Tasha sat at her desk with a hot cup of tea and her laptop open. Her tax folder was right beside her, color-coded, labeled, and not a single receipt missing. Her palms were sweaty, but her heart was steady. She took a deep breath, opened the tax portal, and started filling in the numbers. Income? Check. Expenses? Check. Deductions? Oh yes. Her laptop, her design software subscription, the co-working space fees. She had kept it all this time. It took an hour, maybe two. But when she clicked submit, something inside her shifted. It wasn't just relief, it was pride. Tasha leaned back in her chair and smiled. "I did it," she whispered. "I actually did it." She wasn't perfect. She had to Google a few terms. She triple-checked the numbers. She even sent a few panicked voice notes to a friend. But she didn't give up. She showed up for herself. A few months ago, she didn't know the difference between gross and net income. Now, she had filed her taxes all by herself. No tears, no dread, just quiet confidence. For the first time in a long time, Tasha didn't feel like a little girl pretending to be an adult. She felt like a woman who knew what she was doing. Maybe next year she'd hire an accountant. Maybe not. Either way, she now understood the language of her own money, and that changed everything. "It wasn't perfect," she said, sipping her tea, "but it was mine, and I'm not afraid anymore." She wrote the words on a sticky note and placed it above her desk. Progress, not perfection. Tasha stood by her window, watching the sunrise over the city. She was no longer rushing to a 9-to-5 job, no longer answering to a boss. She had chosen this life: freelance work, flexibility, and freedom. But what she hadn't known when she quit her job was that true freedom didn't stop at setting her own schedule or working in her pajamas. It started when she took charge of her finance, especially taxes. "Freedom isn't just quitting your job," she whispered to herself. "It's knowing what to do when the invoices hit." For the first time, she wasn't afraid of being paid. She didn't see money coming in as temporary happiness followed by chaos. She saw it as responsibility and power. Each payment she received had a plan. Some for taxes, some for saving, some for her. Learning about taxes didn't shrink her world, it expanded it. She understood terms like quarterly estimates and withholding now. She no longer waited for panic to drive her to Google things at midnight. She had a system. She had confidence. She also realized how many others were still scared of this part. Friends who were amazing writers, designers, teachers, people who were great at their craft but overwhelmed by the money side. She started sharing what she learned with them, helping them set up folders, track expenses, and breathe. Because freedom, she realized, grows when it's shared. That morning, Tasha opened her journal and wrote, "Freedom is control with compassion. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about knowing you can learn." She smiled, closed the journal, and opened a new invoice template on her laptop. There was work to do, and this time, she wasn't just ready for the project. She was ready for the paperwork too. Real freedom isn't just quitting your job or working from anywhere, it's understanding the money part too. Tasha learned that being your own boss also means being your own accountant, tax planner, and decision maker. At first, it felt scary. But once she took time to learn saving for taxes, tracking income, and asking for help, she felt stronger. Healing your money fears is part of adult growth. Taxes aren't there to trap you. They remind you that you're building something worth protecting. Across the world, whether it's the IRS in the US, HMRC in the UK, or FERS in Nigeria, taxes follow income. Avoiding them just delays peace of mind. Freedom means knowing what to expect, asking smart questions, and showing up for your future even when it's uncomfortable. Call to action. Tone like stories that make adulting less scary. Follow for more simple, real-life lessons. Know someone freelancing or running a small biz? Share this and help them skip the mistakes. Because knowing how to handle taxes isn't boring, it's power. And you're capable of learning it. Keep going. You're doing better than you think.